Is that because you're going to be training me, or is that because you want to be sure that I don't change my mind later on the specification?
No, it's kind of training so that you can discuss this case with Jessica after our call, and if you have any queries, you can just show her how it's going to happen in the system.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'm sharing my screen now.
Oh yes, I can see it.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay, so I have created a contract, a purchase contract, Adam, that is PC41. So it is for nickel, and it's a fixed price contract. So it is for 10,000, and product is ferronickel. And yeah, so now what I have done is I have recorded a logistic activity, like shipment activity, for 10,000 metric tons. So contract quantity is 10,000 metric ton, and then GMR quantity is also 10,000 metric ton.
Right.
For shipment, and I have selected is wait final checkbox here, in the shipment. So I have selected is wait final yes, and during landing I have changed the weights to 9,800. So which means the transit law, there was a transit loss of 200 metric ton in this case.
Okay.
Yep. So
yes.
In that case, now if I check the stock list of stocks, the stock quantity is just a second. The stock quantity here is 9,800 metric ton. So and now if I check the inventory.
So this GMR, what was the GMR moving it from? The GMR is moving from the customer to our location.
Right. Yes, it is a purchase GMR, so FOB purchase. So from customer place, we are getting it to our inventory.
Right.
So initially when the GMR was created and title transfer was done, the quantity was 10,000 metric ton and contract price was 12,500. So cumulative cost is this much and average COG is 12,500. And then we had a transit loss of 200 metric ton during landing activity.
Okay.
So in this case, if you see the cumulative cost is the same, average COG has gone up.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So is this the scenario that you were looking for?
Well, I would say not really, but it may be okay, because normally I would say that we would lose it on the sale side. This is part of my imagination as much as anything, but my previous experience. But so if someone is really delivering this fob, then probably there is no loss when they deliver it to us. The loss is when it arrives with the customer, and they say, "Oh, I've only got 9,700 tons, perhaps."
So
it seems to be the functionality you've got here is right. So I'm probably picking holes, right? Sorry, someone was speaking.
Yeah.
Someone had a deeper voice than you, Pratima. I don't think it was you.
Adam, this Anand here. Hi.
Oh, hello. How are you, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
You're my favourite person at the moment.
He made the posting work, right?
Yes, he offered to do something that I was finding very hard. Yes.
Adam, just want to like you said, the main concern is on the sales, right? For the loss.
Yes.
So when actually when you're getting your purchase stocks into inventory, will you be capturing the? Will there be any loss of the material on the purchase side or no?
I think it's possible that it could happen like this, exactly like this. So I'm optimistic. This looks good.
Okay,
But,
because
but what Pratama did say was, is this the normal scenario? And I'm thinking the normal scenario is probably when you deliver to your customer, you take the cargo off the ship,
okay.
and the measurement at that point is a little less than you hoped, or a little more, possibly.
Okay, but the case that you have shared with Ravi was kind of transit loss on purchase. So that's the reason I have modeled this way in the system, Adam.
Okay. But do you think it'll still work from the sales side, right?
Yeah. So what
It's
I
just that you
want to put across
it's
is,
just sorry.
yeah, what I want to put across is when you allocate this particular inventory stocks to sales, whatever cost you're seeing, the average cost which has increased due to the transit loss, the same
Yeah.
cost will be propagated to your sales.
Right.
So ideally your transit loss has been propagated to your sales.
Yes.
And then the sales will have its own cycle, and when you do the fixations on the sales side and the pricing on the sales side, then your PNL will come based on the COGS, that is the cost of goods on sales, and the sales price whatever you have finalized. So difference of this will define your profit or loss.
Yeah.
So ideally this same cost propagates to your sales. That's what I wanted to put across.
Yeah. And so what would happen if you did put it on the sales side?
Sorry, can you just repeat, Adam?
So what would happen? So this is on the GMR, right?
Yes.
You're coping with this on the GMR. So there's a GMR on the sales side too, isn't there?
Right. So when we allocate the stock to the sales, so this cost will also propagate to sales.
Yeah, and you could have a further loss. Say when it landed, it was 9,700. You could do the same trick on the sales GMR.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
We can do the same trick.
Good.
Okay, and a simple case of I'm showing the P&L report as well in this case. So we will have to make some changes here, Adam. If you see contract PC41, I'm referring to inventory inventory unrealized P&L report as we have landed it into the warehouse purchase stock. So if we see here, stock quantity is 9,800 and contract quantity is 12,500. So this is the fixed price contract. So here currently we are not considering the losses in unrealized P&L, and we'll have to enhance this report as well to consider the cost of goods that got increased because of the transit loss. The quantity will be the same, but the price that is getting considered will be based on the inventory price. So average COP price.
That's right. So in fact, what you've done here, because you've increased, which is acceptable, right?
Right.
So what you've done here is you've not taken a financial loss. You've got a loss of product, but you're rolling that loss of product into the cost of product. So there's no loss in the way you're doing it. I think I understand.
No, but for consistency purpose, because the inventory is getting updated by increasing the average cost of goods on the reports, the impact should be the same.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're increasing your asset value. You're saying my value of my stock has been increased. The quantity has decreased, but the cost of it is increased to reflect that.
Right.
So that you're taking no loss at that point. You only take the loss effectively when the whole transaction is finished.
Correct.
Because the cost of goods the cost of goods sold is higher, as Anand was just saying.
Right. Correct, Adam.
Okay.
So this is a basic flow for base metals that we have discussed. Yeah, so mainly you wanted this accounting losses for concentrates case, right?
Yeah, we need it for both. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes. So for base metals, if we enhance this report, that the application will work perfectly. But for concentrates,
Yes.
so the concentrate life cycle, if I explain is, so once we get the quantity into our warehouse, so we have a cycle, we have a assaying cycle. Like first we'll do weighing and sampling to determine the moisture present in the sample, and then we do different types of assays like self-assay, counterparty assay to know how much percentage of element, payable element is present, or what is the composition basically. What all elements are
Right.
present and what is the composition of each element. Right?
Mhm.
So in case of concentrates also the GMR activity is the same. So during shipment landing we'll do is weight final checked, and then during landing we will decrease the landed quantity.
Right.
Okay, but then weighing and sampling is a separate operation which creates new stock in the system.
Mhm.
So if I open, okay, we don't have any weighing and sampling here. Just a second. So here the shipped quantity is 48,000. So say 600. So I'm now creating weighing and sampling, Adam.
Mhm.
So this is the weighing and sampling screen. So here we select the number of sample stocks that we have. For example, in this case, we have only one, and we mention the moisture percentage if we have H2O direct wet to dry, yes. If we have moisture in our chemical attributes, then we have a text. We'll get a text box here as well to enter the moisture percentage.
Okay.
So what system creates here is once I create a weighing and sampling, the old stocks which were created during shipment will get deactivated and new stocks get created in the system.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
that's how we handle.
Adam, basically we do that because during creation of weighing and sampling, if my purchase stock, which is my incoming stock, is a single stock, but I bifurcate or split that single stock into multiple sampling lots. Like I may have one stock, but I split it into 3 sampling lots, and each lot will have its own weighing and sampling done. So, and each lot, whatever I have done, may have different moisture.
Yes.
So here weighing and sampling, what we do, one single stock can be split into 3 separate stocks,
Yeah.
and individually we can put in the moisture. That's the reason the system what the parent stock which has come into the system, it makes it inactive, and it creates new sampling stocks in the system based on the number of sublots you mentioned in weighing and sampling.
Right.
So this is the way it is handled in the system.
Okay.
So here what currently the system behaves is system considers weighing and sampling as the weight final for concentrates. So final invoice will be based on the weighing and sampling weights.
Okay.
So and even inventory will get cost of goods will also get impacted based on the weighing and sampling weights. So if my weight decreases, my cost of goods also decreases in case of concentrates.
Right.
So to handle that case wherein the cost of goods should remain the same, but per unit rate should increase, what we have discussed internally is to have a checkbox here, a new field here, which
Right.
which will either provide it provides a choice to the user whether to impact the COG or not. So
Okay.
if that checkbox is checked, then cost of goods will remain the same and per unit rate will increase or decrease based on the quantities provided here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and if the checkbox is not checked, then the cost of goods will increase or decrease based upon the quantity entered here. So,
Right.
so both the cases will be handled for concentrates in that case, whether to impact inventory or not.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what we have discussed and we are proposing as a solution. And based on this checkbox also invoice quantities will get changed. So if it is checked, the invoice quantities will be based on shipped quantity. That is, say 48,695 was the shipped quantity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it is not checked, then it will be based on the weighing and sampling quantities.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So Arnav, I have just one question here. Whenever you have a transit loss on the purchase side, you will be capturing the landed weights with the loss, right? Like as we saw in the base metal case, my incoming was say 1000 and I had a weight loss of say 100 metric ton. So I
Yeah.
captured landing of 9,990.
990 metric ton.
Yeah.
So now, if it was the case for concentrate, the landing will still be 990. And will you change the weight in weighing and sampling? Is it the case? Just to clarify.
So we have to do this weighing and sampling. I must say, I'm not so familiar with concentrates as I am with base metals. So we have to do this weighing and sampling to use a stage when we do a concentrates trade.
Right.
Always.
Yeah, you have to do a weighing sampling. So the weights would be same as landed weights, right?
Yes, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, so for concentrates in our system is a mandatory step. Either weighing and sampling is a mandatory step.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So in transit you could get that. You could put the loss in there, couldn't you?
yeah, you can capture loss in weighing and sampling as well. Say for example, 48,600 is the landed weights, but actually during sampling you can say that okay, I have received only 4,550. So this again depends upon the contract tolerances. That
Sure.
whether it is in tolerance limit or not. But yeah, you can also register losses in case of weighing and sampling also.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So and similarly the P&L will also get impacted based on the average cost of goods that is present in the inventory. So
Okay, very good.
average cost is increasing, then the P&L also we show that average cost has increased and the asset value remains the same.
Yes.
And if you're not impacting the COG and the COG amount is increasing or decreasing, then similarly asset value also increase or decrease in the P&L report here.
Okay.
So this will be driven by inventory.
Okay. Hang on. Can you just hang on half a second, press, because Jerome's trying to text me. I'm just going to say I'm in a meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah. So that's great. So So the question I had was, what about stocks which are, you've already got the stock and it's sitting there. So you've bought a purchase perhaps and you've delivered it into your stock. And so using our example earlier on, Pratima, so now you've got 9,800. And then you it stays there for a month and you go and measure it again and it's now 9,700. Can we do something with that?
Yeah, so Adam, that can be done through weighing and sampling. So you can
For base metal too?
For base metal, no, we don't have any option. But we can think of weight notes. Like after landing, you can create a weight note. We have an option of weight note on base metal, where after landing you can create a weight note and
weight note.
Weight note.
Right. I haven't seen those. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just show it to you. So I think in this case I have created final invoice as well.
And this was the GMR that we saw before, wasn't it? The 9,800, yeah.
Yeah.
GMR check the latest.
I think 113 has. Huh.
Okay, Adam, I think weight notes can be created only if your weight is not final. So that may not work out. So
Okay.
the other option what we can think of is write-off option for base metal, where you can write off the inventory quantity at any given point of time, which will not impact your cost of goods. That also can be driven based on the flag. Like we'll be providing a flag whether to impact or not to impact cost of goods. So if it is checked, it will impact. If not checked, it will not impact.
Okay.
That we can think of for base metal.
So how does that work?
Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Hello, Vijay here, Adam. So Adam, thanks. Just to add on to what Anand and Pratima are saying, this operation we are treating it as part of landing activity primarily. So if there are any such changes where the stock is sitting in a warehouse for a time, and 3 months, 6 months, and then there is some loss, then those kind of activities this current mechanism, we will have to use some follow-up activity like weight note or weighing and sampling to manage those weight losses.
Okay.
And what we have understood from the business flow in discussion with Sumit or Jessica or others is that these kind of losses are known at the time of landing itself primarily.
Well, I don't know whether it's just the terms that we're using here, but I think the situation will be just as you said. So after 6 months, the stuff might be there for 6 months, and you go and measure it again, and it's the weight of it is slightly different. Yeah. So you wouldn't, when you say you would know it when it's landed, not when you put it into stock, you wouldn't know.
Mostly, that's what we understood from Arrow Metal's discussion, that they will know the weight losses during landing. So that's the reason why, the primary reason to suggest this kind of an approach. And this is a let's say very simple approach, which flows into the overall business flow naturally. Right?
No, I'm confused. I don't quite know where we are. What we're saying now. So we talked about.
Okay, so
we talked about.
Yes, sorry,
losing
Adam. I
stock.
think Anand will. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about losing
Yeah, please
stock
continue.
when between when we bought it and when it was put into stock. So we had the example where we started with 10,000 tons and we ended up with 9,800 in our warehouse. And we mentioned that would also be okay to have further loss at the point of delivery to our customer when we shipped it and we delivered to our customer. So we're talking now about after it's come into our stock. Perhaps it was staying there for 6 months, and then 6 months later you find that there's only 9,700 tons there. And then you said something about a weight note, and now I'm confused about what exactly you're telling me. Sorry to be so silly.
Yeah, so if it is like after 6 months, you'll get to know that, okay, there is a loss in the stock. So what Anand was proposing that in the list of stocks, only for base metals, we can provide a option called write-off.
Yes.
Yeah, and in that option also we can have a checkbox to determine whether it should impact the cost of goods or it should impact or not. So that
Okay.
we can provide for base metals only.
Okay, that sounds great.
And for concentrate, we can always use weighing and sampling. This option would not be applicable for concentrates. Write-off option.
The write-off would apply to base metals and what was it called? The weights.
The weighing and sampling would be applicable for
weighing and sampling, yes, would be for concentrates. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Right.
Okay, sounds okay.
Yeah. So if you can just discuss the same or use this video to explain the same to Jessica, or we can have another call if you have any queries while explaining it to her.
Perfect. Yes, I'll do exactly that.
Yeah.
I prefer the written form of communication, so I'll write it. If you send me that link to the
Sure.
to the video, as you said.
Yeah,
I'll look at it again, I'll write it down, and I'll show it to Jessica and explain it to her. And if she prefers looking at the video, she can do that.
Yeah. So I'll share it to the Dropbox in the next half an hour.
Perfect.
Adam.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is that everything?
Nothing else from my side.
And on the invoice posting thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so there were 17 invoices which you were not able to post, out of which out of which 10 I have rectified the issue, and another 7 I am looking into. Maybe in next 1 hour I'll update you. But 10.
Thank you so much.
10 invoices that you can post. If you want, I can send you the list right away for the 10 invoices which can be posted. Or you want?
Sure. If it's easy to do it, then that's fine. Or I can wait till you're finished. I don't mind.
Yeah, I'll finish it and send at once if it is okay.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you, Anand.
No problem.
Yeah. That's it.
Great.
Adam.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Adam, just one comment, last comment, and
Sure.
Adam Pratima Ravi. So next steps on this accounting outturn gains losses, Adam. You will confirm with Jessica and you check with Jessica and confirm us on the solution, so we can get started work on this.
Yes, that's right.
Right,
So,
that's right.
so if Pratima gives me that today, I'll write it up today, and but it might be late, so I'll talk to Jessica either today or tomorrow, and I'll give you feedback tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's fine. So Adam, tomorrow is a holiday in India. You have this festival. So if you can confirm by tomorrow end of day is fine. So Thursday morning we can get started in India time working on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you all have a jolly time tomorrow.
Yeah, it's Crackers Festival.
Crackers.
Yes.
Okay. What you mean with fireworks? You mean?
Fireworks, right?
Oh yeah.
Fireworks, yes, yes. Yeah,
Oh, well, be
yeah,
careful.
Adam, and Pratima is also, Pratima is also to travel this weekend, so all
That's right.
her things are ready. Visa is ready, flights and hotel, everything is ready, right, Pratima?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
she will be in office Monday morning.
Yes. If there's anything I can do to help with you, Fatima, let me know.
Yeah, sure, Adam, I'll let you know.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pratima. Bye.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.